Okay, give me just 1 second, guys, and we'll be up and running. Whoa, okay, what was that? That was weird. Let's see if that got posted. Yes, okay, good deal. Good morning, guys. This is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching. Let's get started. Just really quick before we get going. And there will be some delays because inevitably I didn't think of everything last night when I was trying to get set up. And the power got knocked out multiple times with the storms we were having. So we'll just read this quick disclaimer. Basically, past performance is not indicative of future results. I'm sharing my trade plans with you in hopes it will make you a better trader. However, my trading style is not for everyone. Take what you like, leave the rest. Right? We try to take a disciplined approach to trading. We do take a disciplined approach to trading, and sometimes the markets just doesn't cooperate with us. So I was thinking a lot about that this weekend in terms of the approach, how I was going to do that. So first of all, the levels have already been posted. I will post them again for people on YouTube. Let's look at a 5-minute chart here. That one real quick. There we are. So when we look at this chart, the areas I'm interested in, I'm posting them, right, are this 33, 32.50 to 33.21 and a quarter. That 33.06 to 33.04, 3300 to 32.97, and then this 32.90 to 32.89. I seriously doubt we get down there. That'll be 100 points down in a no volatility environment, right? The smaller levels, right, that we're looking at are actually below this 33.52.75. So this is going to create a bit of a quandary here. There's overlapping value areas if you look at the profile here, but it also takes out the prior day's low. My guess is if you get in here and we get set up from an algo standpoint, you can take it long. Otherwise, eventually, so here's the trick, right? When it's slow and slow and slow and grinds and grinds and grinds, then all of a sudden it just breaks loose. So for right now, if you had a given area where it's going to break loose, it's going to be right here, and it's going to head right into this 33.32 to 33.21. We just don't know if that break loose will come now, or if it'll come the middle of the week, end of the week, or 2 weeks from now. We just don't know where it's going to occur. It's the frustrating part about trading, because when you're coming to work every day, you're like, I know what I'm looking for. So keep a couple things in mind. Number one, it's August. It is slow. It was slow overnight. It's probably going to be slow during the day session. For me, if I don't have my trade down and my P&L down by 9:30, I'm probably walking away until I visually see the market moving, right? Because one of the things I've noticed myself getting pigeonholed into is trying to force a trade or find a trade when there's no PA there, and the longer I sit there, the more agitated I get. So if you're like me, the best thing to do is go find something else to do, right? Instead of sitting there in front of your screen, right? Or go find a market that's moving. But I see no market that's moving. If you have one, let me know, right? And your definition of moving might be interesting, so let me define it for me. ES, I'd like to see 7 to 10 point rotations up and down, not just it moved down 7 points and stopped, not just it moved up 10 points and stopped. I like to see it go up 10 points down 7 points, up 15, back 8, so that I know I can get some kind of reasonable trade out of those locations. And here's where most people have difficulty, including myself, right? The market may not be willing to give that to us today, right? It wasn't willing to give it to us in NQ overnight. I can tell you that. I settled for a 6-point short and closed it and went back to sleep, right? And I'll cover that in a moment. So when we look at the evidence of the market, I'm going to post this here real quick. Cool, Emmett. Yeah, not for me. I don't enjoy trading gold. I don't trade it exceptionally well. And I know that it's going straight up. And so for some traders, they really like that type of PA. But I'm not going to jump my market. It's just August. And I'm not going to sweat it. Which brings up an interesting thing, right? The whole goal of this deal, when you're switching markets, there's nothing wrong with switching markets if you can do it. Most people don't do it very well. And the trick is that you start chasing markets that are moving, and you don't ever take time to. This is not about you, Emmett. This is more about me than anyone else. But you've got to take time to learn the characteristics of the market and what the upsides and the downsides are. So for me, I'm going to stay with what I've got. I don't feel a need to correct because I know it's August. That's all. Like if this was November and we were like this, I'd be like, yeah, we're going to have to fix things. Okay. So let me get this printed and really quick. I don't even think I need this much here. That ought to do it. And there's nothing above 33.82, just FYI. We'll get this posted really quick, guys. Okay, and for those watching on YouTube, they're now posted on StockTillits and Twitter. So let's talk about what we are looking for. No, there's sound, Joyce. Yeah. So let's look what we do have to work with, right? So number one, when you look overnight, that's a 1.5 range. I'll drop down to 1.25. There's just no rotation, counter rotation. You had to get long here last night on the close above the last speed bar. That was it. That was really your only setup. So Joshua asked about the stopped out buyer and stopped out seller. I'm going to give an example of that. So if I was going to look for a long, and I'll do it on NQ because ES barely moved, but this is your last stopped out buyer on your way down. So what that means is someone bought here and they got taken out to the downside, right? And so what we were asking about was what was the quality, what's the quality of the setup for the push, so on and so forth, right? And so when you look over here, what you want, so see how repeatedly right now, because we're so slow, when they're coming in with a hard sell, when you get above that hard sell, and you've taken out some kind of stop. So remember, I don't know how to explain this. without confusing people, and I don't want to confuse people. So let me see if I can do this. Every time I take out a level like this, see this over here, right? So you gotta visualize that there's millions and millions of traders all over the place, right? Just like imagine the pit floor, but everyone has different levels of tolerance, right? And you know that there's some people that are like, bam, I picked off the low right here, some kind of retrace. I'm putting my stop right here. And what the market loves to do is come over, take out that stop, right? Collect all those stops, and then reverse back up. And so one of the ways we have of reading that, and I was working with someone in a coaching session this weekend, well, what are the ways that we know that reversal, what does that reversal look like? Okay, so there's a couple of things. And what we want to do is build evidence for the trade, right? So the first thing is, have we taken out a stop over here? We have. There's one here, and there's one here. We've taken them both out, right? Once we've taken them out, see how you have that. So what shows us that there's a lot of effort put in to the market going lower? That's the next question we're asking, right? So we're asking for, it's kind of like one of those kids games, like how much evidence can you collect for your trading decision, right? So one of the pieces of evidence is we took the stop out over here. Really not that big a deal, but we took it out, right? And we also took out this stop. Wherever there's a fractal, it's pretty easy to tell. We took out that stop as well. Next, we have these blue arrows. Those are my highest rated arrows from an algo perspective. They tell me the maximum amount of energy went down, right? So if you were to go around looking at the chart going, hey, when I have a blue arrow down and I get above it, so what I'm trying to show you is how I think about the market when I'm trading, right? How I'm trying to make my trading decision and how I'm breaking that down. So if I go through this last night, and it was actually so slow I could go down to a one tick chart, but I won't. But let's say I wanted to hone in on just one idea, right? So, or two ideas. I'm going to have a stopped out buyer. That's going to be one of them because I know that gives me fuel to the upside, right? And then I'm going to start thinking about it. And this is how you stack the evidence of what you're looking for, right? Like kind of like when you're learning to play blackjack. If someone goes, hey, you've got an ace and a king, queen, or jack, or 10, you stand, right? Like that's like a no-brainer. You win. You got 21, right? So if you don't know anything else about playing 21, you know if you get dealt 21 out of the gate, the worst case scenario is you're going to push with the broker, with the dealer, or you're going to win that hand. So that's kind of how I'm thinking. So the first thing that tells me I'm Jack or 10 is I've taken someone out who tried to buy in front of me and they got stopped out. That helps me. I don't know why, but it does. I don't have to understand why, right? I just know that it does. So I've got that. The next thing I'm looking for is I'm going, hey, when I get these blue arrows, what I've noticed as I go around these blue arrows is that when I close on top of them, we tend to go, right? I can come through here and look through here. I've got one here. I've got one here. And again, what am I saying? I'm saying the tendency is when I close above them, and clearly above them, right? I tend to go. In this case, a black side tested and pushed. Again, right over here. Closes clearly above. Okay, but I witnessed that last night, right? So I want to go back a little bit. How did that work out? Let's say Friday kind of sucked, right? The trading day was pretty choppy, actually. Right, so can I look at that same idea on Friday and how did I make out, or how much did I lose, or how much did I make? Because what I'm trying to do, so the market's moving extremely slow right now, but when the market gets moving fast, you don't have that much time to make a good decision, right? So I could go through this chart. So obviously I don't have anyone stopped out over here, but even with that, if I get this blue if I get a blue bar over here, right? So no stop outs really. What I mean by that is, okay, I've stopped these guys out, but I've stopped them out after a roll to the upside, right? So I'm going to the right, going to the right, going to the right. Had I taken this long right here, I would have gotten stopped. No big deal. Well, cool. I wouldn't have taken that long, but if I did take it long, I'd have gotten stopped. It's in that 7 to 8:30 period that I hate anyways, right? Market opens up. Here's my last blue arrow down, right? So remember, I'm not even thinking about any other part of the process. What I'm trying to train myself on is just like, hey, if I close above that blue arrow, does it go up? Well, it did. It didn't go up a lot. I'm not trying to solve that part of the equation. It just went up, right? So I'm going to keep following it along here. Here we go. Blue arrow, blue arrow, blue arrow closes above, and it goes up. All right, I'm going to keep going along the line. And by the way, it works the same way up. Here's one up, close underneath, it went down. All right, I'm going to keep looking. So I see my blue arrows over there. So here's my last blue arrow over here. Now, when it closed above that blue arrow, did it go up? It did, right? Now it didn't go up by 1 billion, but it went up, right? So now I'm going to start thinking, so when I'm looking at this evidence, right? So now I want to do one other thing. Well, that's right now, Simon, right? You could say, well, that's right now. So let's go back to 7-9 and see what we learned from that, right? So when I come over here, I look at 7-9, and I'm just going to pick out a place randomly, preferably in the morning instead of the afternoon. All right? And see how I'm zooming in on one little piece of evidence. So I know on all of these, I never get above these blue arrows, right? I can just already see we're just coming all the way down. We never get above them, right? So I can watch it coming across. I don't think there's a blue arrow anywhere in here. No, 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 no. Okay, so here's one, right? I would say this, so there's a hammer bar that gets above, right? And then this is the first full bar that gets above, and it does push, okay? So now I start thinking through my head, and what I'm trying to train you to do, again, what am I trying to figure out? I'm trying to figure out two things, right? What does the turn look like, and how can I train my brain to quickly look at it, right, and quickly find it? So what I know is when we get behind that blue arrow, right, sometimes if I get that blue arrow down and I close behind it, sometimes I get a little extension, and sometimes I get a big extension, right? So what are the next pieces or the next elements that tell me we could really push, right? So let's look at this example here. And what I'm trying, again, I'm going to keep going back, guys. What I'm not trying to do is hand you a trade. People in the room already know what we're looking for in the trade, right? Location, we have stopped out buyer, stopped out seller, we get above the last stopped out buyer, right? Fractal up, fractal down. There's several components in it, right? But if I'm looking at this, right? The first thing I'm going to notice is my last stopped out buyer is way up here. And the only way that trade's going to work out for me, with my last stopped out buyer up there, is if we V-shape, right? So you'll notice when I'm in the room and I say, hey, we get this big roll down, guys, and usually when we get this big roll down, I know I can wait to get my stopped out buyer on the right. Now, where do I get pissed off when I go do that work? Is when it V-shapes, right? And that's me trying to be a perfectionist. But if you look at this structure here, right? We roll down, you're like, great, I took out all my stops over here to the left. I got my biggest push to the downside of the day. So now let's go look at what other pieces, because we know this failed. Had you taken the close above, you probably got somewhere about a 3-point rip. And that's fine, right? You know it's usually worth 2 to 3 points has been my observation, all right? So next I'm looking for, when I come in and see that blue bar, I'm going to go, I'm looking to get above my red speed bars down, okay? But over here, I still don't have a stopped out buyer. So watch how this is going to fold over. So who asked Joshua? You asked me the question about the stopped out buyer, right? This guy got stopped out. This is the last guy to get stopped out right here. Okay, now check how I'm going to add evidence. I've got a stopped out buyer. I've got a blue arrow down, and then I've got a red speed bar with a fractal in it. See that right there? Okay. I've now added a bit of complexity in what I have to observe, right? But I know that if I come back and I got this red speed bar, and I've got this blue arrow, see how they're almost lined up together? The first clue that I'm looking for is the close above. The next thing I'm looking for is the first, any type of arrow above. That's telling me momentum is switched. and I can now push out to the upside. So while those other trades are worth 2 or 3 points and put me on edge, if I'll combine looking for the red speed bar in combination with getting the blue bar, right, do I have a better trade there? So now I'm gonna flip it back the other way, right? Well, what about the short? As we're coming up over here, right, see how beautiful that roll down was after 10 o'clock? So first of all, that push was from roughly 31.12 to 31.20. It's a good trade by anyone's measure, right? But if we flip it back the other way now, as I'm coming up and I'm looking for my short. So I know the blue arrow up helps me, right? Blue arrow up tells me I've got a lot of energy, and I've got one right here. They pushed really hard, and I know that when I get underneath that blue arrow up, I have a good chance of rolling lower. The question is how much, right? So I need other pieces of evidence. I've got a blue arrow up. They pushed really hard. I'm coming up, up, up. I get a stopped out seller. Stopped out seller, by definition, is someone who tried to come in and sell, and then we got above them. I'm going to assume they put their stop right on top. They got stopped out. The next thing I'm looking for on top is not the red speed bar, right? So I've got a stopped out seller, and now I'm going to come over here. Now I'm going to go this. That is my last speed bar. So that's telling me when they lifted the offers here, they lifted them really, really fast. Okay? They lifted the offers really, really fast. I've got a stopped out buyer. So I know in order to go lower, I've got to get below this point right here and below this point right here. And if you look, I get this arrow, this series of arrows down, but really what stands out that's clear to me, if I'm going to mark all that off, is this line right here. Joyce, this should be exactly what we covered in coaching, right? And I have one of two ways of handling that short. I can either use that bar itself as the short entry, right? Or I can come in and put my stop behind the last fractal, but that makes for a rather large stop. So what I'm probably going to do is draw a middle ground and put a 3-point stop on this, because I really want it to go right on this. I really want it to go right on this bar right here, right? And it's right at the breaking point. It would have been different for this arrow over here, because this arrow wasn't right on the bubble, right? It was off of the bubble. So it came back and backside tested my last stopped out seller. And really what I'm going to do is put my stop right over here and go, I don't want to get above my stopped out seller. I'm going to put a stop in there, and you'll see when you look back to the right over there, right? See how they gave that back in? They gave resistance, right? So I'm starting to connect the dots of understanding, putting the colors and the algos and what they're telling me and how structure works together, right? So when I come down here, right? When I come down here and I see this big sell, and I know I get this blue arrow down, I'm probably going to cover as soon as I get above that blue arrow, even if I'm not going to go long. And this is an exact situation of where I come all the way down, my stopped out seller is all the way up to the left, and it's going to V-shape, and I'm going to probably get flustered because I had nothing in there that told me to get long or short. So that's one small aspect, right, where if you focus on that setup, I can go anywhere on this chart, literally anywhere. Right? I see back over here, and I can start working on this trade idea here. So, but let's get out of Asia into London and scoot over here and see if we find our setup, right? So here's an example. It's Asia again. Let's keep going. We were very volatile on this. Let's really scoot back. I'm probably too small, but we'll go back further. There we go. Okay, here's US session. And let's look at this grind here. See if we can put it together. To see if we can figure out what we were doing through the course of this trade. Let's see how we opened. $8.30 and $8.57. The market's pretty fast here. We need to probably bump to a 1.5, but that's fine. We'll leave it just like it is for right now and try to make this work. So the first thing, so remember, I don't always get the stopped out buyer, but if I do get them, I can start going to work, right? So as I'm coming along, this is my last stopped out buyer, clearly, right? right there. Now, you can start making distinctions on this. Me personally, when I'm looking at a trade, I have a bias that I like my stopped out buyers and stopped out sellers to come near the low, but we don't always get that, and that's okay. That's when it switches down to, are you going to have a preference on where your stopped out buyer is? Because when you got above your stopped out buyer here, it did push, it did backside test and push back up again, but it was well off the low. What other elements do we have here to help us out? So the first thing that I'm noticing when I'm looking here is this is my last blue arrow. So over here, I'm going to point it out. I have a blue arrow here, and when I got above it, did I push higher? Yes. It backtraced a little bit, but it did push higher, right? Then I come over here to this retrace. What this is a 50-60 retrace right here. So again, that's another element that you can use to measure your trade. But what I don't like about this is my stopped out buyer is up above. That comes right into the stopped out 50-60 retrace, right? As I come in, I get my blue arrow. I know the blue arrow is very important. I close above it, and it pushes. What I don't have here is a fractal down, right? But what I do have is a speed bar, a blue bar, and I close above both of those, and I get a significant push. Okay, so what we're starting to learn is the market presents itself, right, in different markets, in different ways, and you're gathering clues, right? Like I'm going to give you an example. If I was coming up over here, right, and someone goes, hey Simon, where do you think it'll be short? Now I'm going to eyeball it quickly because I'm pretty good at this. This is my own algo after all, right? And you go, hey Simon, where do you think we probably roll over? And I'm going to go, blue arrow up. I need a blue speed bar up. I got that right here. I'm going to say I need to close underneath those blue speed bars plus that blue arrow up. Right? I'd say if you get underneath that, you're going to fall away. Lo and behold, that also includes your last stopped out seller. Right over here. And sure enough, what happens? So that's more like the speed of what I'd be looking for. So then the next natural question comes is, well, Simon, what kind of stop are you going to use? I'm going to say you have two choices. You probably need to work it one of two ways, either so that that's a head and shoulders right there, and you put your stop on the close above the 31.22, or you use that very bar with a 2-point stop and you're willing to take it 2 times and hope it doesn't back trigger on you, right? If that makes sense to you. You want to keep it so that it's it takes thinking, and it's got to be molded to your own ability to take risk and to keep you from over trading, right? Just like if I was over here, right? See how it's coming down? And I'm going to go, you're going to go, hey Simon, quick, where do you think we go back up? I'm going to go, well, I don't have anything here, so it's going to be this, right? If I get above that, that's all I have, and that's not going to be enough evidence for me to want to take that trade, right? So when I go to practice this in real time, I'll go like this. Let's stop right here. Simon, where are you taking a trade? I'm going to start to go through here. And the first thing I'm going to look for is a blue arrow. I'm going to go, okay, blue arrow, speed bar. I close underneath, we probably fall away, right? Oh, and I want a stopped out buyer, stopped out seller. That's this guy here, but I wanted it location. I don't have time to figure out location going through the chart randomly, right? So if I take this trade, that's 30.69 to 30.65. That's what it's worth there, right? And then I'm going to say I don't want to get above this point if I'm going to try and push that trade, right? Let's get to a US session over here instead of this. Here we go. We'll just stop here. So Simon, what about here? If we're sitting here, and I don't want too far, let's get back. So now if we're sitting over here at 10 in the morning, you go, Simon, we have clearly stopped out buyers, right? We've been rolling down. What are you looking for? What will help you know that we're going to push higher? I'm going to go, cool. So check this out. Here's my stopped out buyer over here. Then I get a stopped out buyer right here. So this is actually my last stopped out buyer, right? There's my blue arrow. That helps me a lot, right? So look how it's going to repeat. Combo. Blue arrow, red speed bars. Close above. In this case, once it closes above, it pushes a little bit. Here's my stopped out buyer. backside test the structure, and then it pushes out from there, right? So I've got to be able to anticipate both of these moves. But what this lets me do is make a very quick assessment of what I'm looking for in the market or what I'm not looking for in the market. And so as you're going, right, there's a ton of setups that I have, right? Just a lot of them. And we're trying to assess. But what I like to see is the stopped out buyer or seller somewhere nearby, a blue speed bar, and then with the combination of these red speed bars, right? And then the arrows up. Once I get the arrows up behind those, that tells me that the momentum has changed. And particularly if I forget the green one, if you can get these purple arrows up, that's what really tells you that the momentum has changed, right? That's what we're looking for, guys. That's how you pull the money out of the market. So when we go to this right now, which is going to be slow as hell, right? And I look at this coming into the morning. I'm going to go clearly stopped out seller right there. So the first thing I know is in order for the market to go lower, I'm going to have to bust out underneath this guy right here. Number two, where's my blue arrow up? I don't have that yet. That helps me, okay? That helps me relax, because if I don't have a blue arrow, I know I don't have the most powerful bar in there, just like this one, right? Let's say when we get above this, there's the red speed bars, we get above, we backside test it, and we tend to push, right? So I don't like to screw with those blue bars because they tell me that I'm about to get those blue arrows, because it tells me that if I get behind them, that they put a boatload of energy into that bar, and I need to flip it back the other way, right? And then the last piece is, once I have the blue bar, right, I go, if I get above this blue bar and this red bar in combo, with or without the stopped out buyer, I don't want to be short anymore. And the inverse is true too on the long, right? So if I'm coming back over here, I'm going to go, okay, here's the blue, my last blue bar, and here's my last red bar. I get underneath it, and it fell away. Again, we had a crap range last night. There's just nothing to it, right? So it was just worth a few points. And I'd really like all of that to stack up right into the apex, right? So it starts eliminating by looking for that blue arrow. It stops eliminating, because Joyce, when I was coaching with Joyce this weekend, Joyce asked me a good question. She was like, so she knows what her setup is, but the question is, how do I, and I was also talking to Dr. Jeff, how do you narrow down the number of decisions you have to make, or how on alert or how on edge you have to be to take the trade? So we already know when we get behind the red speed bars that we tend to push anyways, right? It's a pretty easy scalp, and if you want to scalp them, that's fine. But what the turns look like is you get the blue arrows in conjunction with the red speed bars, you get behind them, and that tends to be what the push is. About 50% of the time it backside tests and then goes. About 50% of the time it doesn't backside test. It just takes off. And then you have to build your entry exit strategy around that idea, right? How you're going to handle it. And then if you do stuff like what Joshua does, which he uses a double stochastic called a Bressert double stochastic, which actually seems to work pretty nicely. You can look for delta divergences. There's other little clues and hourly stop outs, which are the big one, right? Like when we look this morning, right, on, what is this, 1.5? Yeah, we get rid of that. Where's my 60-minute chart? So when I look at this 60-minute chart, first of all, I can see very clearly, right? If you look at this whole area, right, take a picture of this. Okay, look at that. Okay, see that really clearly? Right, this is crap, right, overall. That highlights the last couple of days, right? Look a couple of weeks ago. Look at the range of the bars, even within the same consolidation. This is covering 3140 all the way down to 3020, okay? 120 points. This is covering 3140. I guess it's not that bad. It's actually covering 100 points, but just in grind mode. Wait, let's see this. Oh, there it is, the last couple weeks. 3380 to 3350. I stand corrected. Like, that's a really narrow range. That's 30 points of total ES range. Where do you think it's going to be easier to make money is when you're seeing those 100-point ranges up and down, not when you're seeing 30, 40-point ranges. Because the problem is by the time we're getting triggered, the whole move's already occurred, right? And what that forces you to do, I can tell you right now because I've done it, I'm going to go, well, you know, I'm going to switch strategy. because it's low volatility, I'm just going to start buying underneath. And that sounds cool, right? Like of all the traders I've coached and everyone I've spoken to, right? So particularly younger guys, but everyone really, right? And gals, they get it, right? So here's what happens. They get really good at picking off those edges when it's slow, and they just short straight or go long or short straight into them, right? And they go, look, it works, it's genius, right? And then the market explodes in volatility, and they get wiped, right? And I'm very guilty. I've done the same thing, and I've gotten killed doing it, right? So what I suggest is the better strategy is this. Act like you already have $100 million in the bank, and you're going to wait till your market comes in, right? And you're going to wait till it comes into your suitability. If you have to make money right now, you have no chance but to adjust to the edges, right? Because we're just not getting big extensions right now. But if you'll stay calm and you'll stay patient, the market will roll back to you. I promise you, every August is like this, right? It'll roll back to you and you'll get paid. So know what your patterns look like that are going to pay you once the range is 40, 50 points on ES or NQ. I'm going to go show you one other thing, same pattern on NQ. By the way, all the stop outs have to be sitting here, 3382s, 3383s. I know there's some small overnights. This has clearly all been resistance up here, right? From 3080 to 3082. Like if you just shorted that, you've been getting paid, but we're building energy here, and you got to give the benefit of the doubt to the upside break. And there's clearly a wedge here. I would love to see it break down more than anybody else because it opened the volatility. But you got to think if they break this wedge that there's enough shorts built up here over 3 or 4 days. We're above value. We're above, I want to say prior day's high, but let me verify before I say that. We're above prior day's high. We're above value area. We're above the prior day's points of controls, obviously, right? This is the volume point of control from Thursday. We're above that. It's a singular point, so there's no the TPO is way down there. So I kind of got to figure they're going to at least attempt to take out the 3382, and then we'll see whether they show up or not. But higher lows, higher highs. We've held the 50-60. I'm guilty of looking for bearish evidence that doesn't exist. And right now, from an hourly standpoint, if I do this to this, I've got to get below 33.43 and not get back above 33.51 to convince me that we are going to roll lower. And I see no evidence of that, and I'd want to look to be a buyer. Furthermore, there's no counter rotation, right? So if we short this, we're going to be stuck trying to get covers where none exist. Who's going to make money here? The guys who bought the open. That's okay. They get their moment to shine just like we get ours, right? And if you're all right with that, I'm not all right to logically handle the stops that come with it when the market turns. I get too frustrated. So I'm happy to give that away. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. And I'm going to show you on NQ. It's the same pattern, guys. Show you the trade I took last night. It wasn't much of a trade, but I took it. So first of all, if you'll notice where I took the trade, my power's been on and off all night long. It finally stayed on. So here's my stopped out seller right here. All right, like that at a high. I had some divergence on this stochastic that I've been playing with, right? We pushed back up to a new high on on volume divergence, right? Wave divergence, whatever you want to call it. What I don't have is a blue bar, but I had this this blue speed bar. We closed underneath. I simply shorted the backside test into this, and I covered for 6 points. Like, it was a nothing trade. I got very lucky. I didn't really, middle of the night, I'm still getting adjusted to trading there. I just looked at it and said, this isn't going anywhere, and I covered it and went home, right? Now, go back to that same trade, right? Do I get the pieces that I'm looking for? Okay, so sometimes it can fail, right? Blue arrow. If I'm looking for a blue arrow, what else am I looking for? So as I'm coming up, I'd have gone, I got a blue arrow. But now I need to get, it's kind of like that double verification you get with security now these days, like when you're with your bank. Blue arrow, but I got to get underneath this guy. Never happens. As I'm coming over here, I've got a blue arrow. That's one piece. Now I got to get underneath this guy, right? So all the way through here, right, I'm looking to get in combination of a blue arrow, because that tells me a lot of energy was put in, and I at least, even if I don't have that, I at least have to get behind these speed bars. But there's an important part that I find a lot of people detached from. You got to be able to get under. You got to look at it and go, look, if I short NQ, what's the most I'm getting out of this, right? So 11,250 to 11,232, if I'm perfect, right? So what this is forcing you to do is, if I wait till I get underneath my blue bars, which I'm not even being able to do, but let's say I short this, the rotation's so small that if I don't, by the time I short it, I'm getting the reversal signal for a pushback the other way. Trust your visual cues, right? Like when I look at this right now, right? If I go short 11/12/44, right? Stop 11/12/52. Why would you take that trade, right? There's no evidence that it's trading. And what I hear from people is like, well, by the time it breaks, it's just going to break in a straight line. Yeah, I share that same fear, right? So let me show you something. Usually when that happens, so I'm going to show you a big break where it just doesn't give you anything. Here, we'll use this over here in Asia. Okay, no blue arrow, I get underneath, it just falls away, right? With very little evidence, just, you're like, oh my gosh, I missed my trade, and I knew I should have shorted that on the edge, right? Well, if you look when you come down, you got your stopped out buyer, right? You've got a red speed bar over here, red speed bar over here, and you got your blue arrow down, right down here. So look, when I get behind this guy, we backside tested that stopped out buyer, which is this guy right over here, and we took off, right, to the upside, and it backside tested yet another time over here. This trade over here, if you waited for it to do it properly, right, that's an entry of 11,116, and it gave you a push to 11,133. On the backside tests, if you wanted to take the backside test, it gave you even further pushes up, right? And if you look over here, right, what are we looking to do to catch a short? We want a blue speed bar up, preferably somewhere up in here, blue speed bar and a blue arrow up, right? We don't get it over here, and that's okay because it's pushing. So see this over here? I want to show you something. As we're going up, I know once I get behind this bar, right? I don't know exactly how it's going to do it, but now I know I've got the stage set that if I get underneath this bar, we can push lower, right? So now what am I looking for? Speed bars, and to get behind them, specifically blue speed bars. So I'm coming up, coming up, coming up. So right now I know if I get behind this guy, this is one option. Now I've got to pause here, because remember, I'm thinking quickly. I don't have a stopped out seller there, right? You've got to keep a spreadsheet or a decision process. There's no stopped out seller, so if I take this short, right, this is going to be a harder trade. In this case, as we're coming up, I've got my blue arrow up, and what I'm probably going to do here is cheat. That's what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to go, hey, they push right up on top, that blue bar, and it's a different setup. I'm going to take that blue bar, take the arrow underneath, I'm going to short it and stop on that bar, and I'm probably going to add once I get underneath this guy right over here to this trade to push lower, right? And see how I'm starting to flow, because I want to show you something. See this over here? I want to show you again how I'm going to make it flow quickly in my brain. That's the key to it if you're going to scalp through this, right? Boom, I know they put a lot of energy in right here. See how this pattern keeps repeating? You get behind this bar and we keep going the other way. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to take too long to figure that out. So now what am I looking for? A red speed bar. Bam, I've got that right there. Evidence 2, evidence 3 is the arrow up behind the red speed bar and the blue bar down. and there's my push to the upside, right? That is what I am doing over and over and over again. I'm trying to keep my stops small, and I'm trying to press. And then the one piece that we don't see here is where's the key locations, because that really helps us figure out the rest of the trade. So, Randy, are you in the room this morning, buddy? I just saw your Skype message. Okay, go to ID 30. I'm going to show you right now. Go to NASDAQ. Go to Analysis, Studies. Go to ID 30, right over here. It should say Draw TMP Disabled. Remove it, right? You highlight it, hit Remove, and then go to Add Custom Study. And go back to Add TMP. Right here, Draw TMP, and add that back in. That's all you have to do, and you should be lit up once that goes. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. That's what I'm looking for. I think NQ will probably have better opportunities, but you know what? I can just chillax until I see a blue arrow up on this thing. And I don't like markets to go straight up, but I don't have any choice on this matter. No, market's not asking me what I like. Right, so floor's open. I don't anticipate this to be a very busy morning. Right? We have started off on both markets with a type of trend day up, and I'm going to need to see that break. So floor's open for questions. YouTube guys, if y'all will post, I'll try to cover that in a video later today if you have any questions, but that's kind of it. So here's my blue arrow, right? When I'm looking at the 1 1/4. Here's my blue arrow. Here's my stopped out seller. Now I have to make a judgment call, right? If I get underneath this, right? There's my blue speed bar, there's my blue arrow up. If I close underneath 33.78, I should be able to move lower, right? But my entry's going to be 77, and my stop's going to be roughly 82. It's going to be a 5-point stop. And there's been very little rotation, counter-rotation. So how do you want to handle that? And that's, no one can answer that for you, right? I don't think it's a short market right now. I think if I short that, I'm going to be looking for every reason in the world to cover the trade, right? I don't want to be in that environment. I want every reason in the world. Like, I want to look at my environment and go, I have every reason in the world to try to stick this trade. And who has that right now is the longs, not the shorts, right? I want to go, man, I'm just going to hold this trade and hope I get lucky. I'm going to have to get so entirely lucky that I'm going to have to find every seller in the world to come in and start stepping in to get that market, to get this trade to give me 10, 15, 20 points, right? I'm going to have to get very, very lucky on this, right? And odds are I get frustrated. But hold on, go to your journal for a second. What if I don't take this and it's worth 30 points? What am I going to say? So it's important that I go to my journal right now. Right? I'm going to write in my journal. Look at time. This is following Dr. Steenbarger's process, right? By the way, to put in a word, if you need a great trading coach, psychology-wise, beyond what I can offer, and you're having just issues with performance, Dr. Jeff Baldridge, I cannot recommend him more highly. He's just had a huge impact on my trading career, and I owe him a world of thanks and gratitude. So if anyone needs his contact information, just send me a message and I'll get it over to you. He is worth every penny and more. So going over to this trade, right? I'll go potential short setting up. Shorthand setting up. 8:50 a.m. I am not taking trade because no evidence of counter rotations. Too hard to get scale if it explodes to the downside. More trades will open up. Okay, what did I do there? I protected myself psychologically by not letting myself fall into resulting. Okay? Resulting is you look at the trade after it worked and go, I should have taken that. Right? But the real problem solving goes on the front end of that when you look at it and go, do I really want to be short that trade? And the answer is, for me, right now, is hell no. Right? And that's all I have to say about that. Right? I want to see some evidence that they can sell the market first. And I want to see some evidence of volatility, which I have none. Randy, did that work for you, buddy? Okay, great. I don't have anything else, guys. Slow weeks are okay. I'm going to stress this over and over again. If you look back in August when it's slow and you blew the shit out of yourself, you will be pissed. And how does that usually happen? It's not from large losses, but from lots of little losses. Okay, Leandro, I'm talking to you. Sorry, I don't rarely call people out. Do not overtrade this, buddy. It's a no-win. When the market looks like this and it's crawling, it's a no-win. Right? So relax your mind, right, and be very clear what you're looking for so you can trade when it presents itself. The confidence is very important. Even in NQ right now, right, like last week when I was cheating and just taking the close underneath the blue speed bar, look how quick I'm going to have to be on these covers. Is it working? Yeah. Technically, I'm going to have to cover for 3 points and be like lightning and hope it doesn't come back on one time and stop me out and take out all my P&L, which is why I covered last night when I said, hey, there's no blue speed bar fractal, blue arrow up, blue speed bar. If I get underneath 11, 2, 4, 650, I'll probably try it small. Why? Because NQ probably give me a 5 or 10 point rotation. I'm going to use that one bar as my stop because I do not want to dig a 10 or 15 point hole on NQ. And the cool thing is now is I've got a clear area where it's got to get underneath, right? And if I look, also that 11, 2, 4, 8 is a, that's well up to party, so I don't have to worry about that. So anyways, that's my 2 cents, guys. I expect a no-nothing Monday. And I will ignore that short off the top there. And I already know the reason why I'm not going to take that short. I'll just simply take a picture of it. And if I see it again, and I'll evaluate whether I'm willing to lose money. But I'm very clear, I'm not willing to go in the hole at 9 a.m. because I think I found the top when we're showing no indication of an ability to sell all night long. Give me just 2 seconds, guys. There, Jason. So let's see what happens. Close underneath 33.78 should bring up sellers, right? Or a backside test of that area, right? So just like when you're trying a project or baking, right? Sometimes you can kind of test it as it's going through to make sure you've got it set up the right way. And I've got to go buy a power generator today because being without power sucked. So we have NQ up 126 and ES up 16. Usually Mondays turn into a balanced day, so it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. My plan right now is to hang out till London close, and then I'll look again at 1 o'clock. And I'm going to sleep in between those two periods. So I've gotten a close underneath my stopped out buyers. I know I've got to get underneath this fractal as well. That's the close, right? So I've made a decision not to take a trade setup that I know generally works due to lack of rotation and counter rotation. So normally my entry would have been there at 33.77.50. Since I'm not taking the trade, I don't have to worry about the stop. I can just say the stop is my max stop, which would have been a point above the high. So we call it 33.82, let's call it. Okay, just eyeballing it, right? Let's see what that would or would not be worth. And then my target, if I go look over here, the natural target would be 33.73 or 33.71. The extended target would be back to the point of control at 33.66.75. Okay, and I have two choices in entering it. I can take the backside test, which I'm not going to take either. I also noticed that I had the biggest push down in the morning, right? See that? It's a really big push down. If we get above that push down, everyone who's sold in here is going to have to come back in hypothetically, right? There's obviously no rule, a one-to-one rule, but everyone who's sold in there is going to have to come back in on that, right? So I would imagine above 33.81, you're going to see a push at this point, which would make sense because that would pitch you right at 33.82 and a quarter. And it doesn't take any rocket scientists to look at that chart and see that we've been getting sellers that 33.80 to 33.82 area, right? So this would be the backside test, right? If I didn't want to short that 77.50, I could short the 78 quarter, 79, anything in here, right? But again, I'm not going to because I don't like pain. Although you would be confused to that idea watching me trade on occasion. So see over here, I can go through the same step, right? See this? Blue arrow up, right? Now I'm looking for my speed bar, get underneath the speed bar, and this, and I should be able to fall back away, right? If I want to cheat, if I get this blue speed bar and close underneath it, and I want to use that as my stop, I can do that as well, right? But right now, nothing. And by cheat, I mean start with a smaller position and add to it as it drops away. Looks like we're pushing for a trend day up on a Monday, and why not? That's weird, but happens. Again, the backside test providing resistance. You can see people are stepping in and selling there. Right? Doesn't mean they'll hold it because we're getting no extensions and we have no volatility. But it is doing what it's supposed to do. And think about in all of this, guys, like the cool thing for me, for someone who's been run over many times in NQ, not a single short set up in that whole process, right? Yeah, 5 point range. Randy, thank you. Randy's pointing out 5 point range in the first 30 minutes. Is that the smallest range we've had? It's worse than last week, he's pointing out. So, yeah, that sucks. And that backside test worked. Okay, so I want to show you all a combo that I saw in NQ. Right, so just like that. So see how I got my blue arrow up, right? And now I got the fractal, right? I got a speed bar, blue arrow up. I know I need to get underneath here. Now I've got a blue arrow up, I got a speed bar, and I got an arrow down behind, right? So what don't I have is a stopped out buyer over there. Stopped out seller. I need not get a stopped out seller to all the way down here. Usually that will result in a consolidation over here before it'll roll down. See how this is a super bar? It was a version of a super bar, yellow with a red triangle, and that was the first clue that we could get. So this is a big clue that we were getting exhausted, right? That's a big push right up near the high. The blue speed bar. I've gotten underneath this blue speed bar, and I know I need to get a clean close underneath here, and they probably can get pulled back into support down at the 11,246 area first time in, right? But see how it's not giving anything up, and in a fast market, a clean market, it'll give this up. Like once you get this arrow down, it won't get back above this bar, and it'll give a clean push really quick into 46. You can just see from the way it's trading that they're not willing to do that, which is going to force you to be a more patient trader, right? So I was willing to take some on the edge on this bar, right? So I took some here, and what I wanted it to do is close underneath this bar, but then I noticed how little it's rotating relative to ES. I just closed it right here. Why? Because they paid me almost $130 a contract for a product that's showing no weakness, and I don't have my key element, which is I need my stopped out. I get my stopped out seller enough of the time that I don't need to try to press when it's not there. I can just scalp through that, right? And then over here on ES, right? Have I really missed a monster trade yet? Not in particular. My entry would have been right here at 33.77, and the best I've done is what, 75.75. If I took the backside test, I did a little bit better, but the environment is not rewarding me for taking risk in that area. And you'll see when you're taking risk, right? That's what you're asking is, are you getting rewarded for the risk you're taking for putting up your capital? And we're not getting rewarded right now. So it's tiny size on NQ for me until I see the patterns develop, right? And until I see the rotations open up. Because I'm not trying to find the high, I'm trying to find the trade, right? And if we were in 20-point rotations in the market right now, this would have been worth 5 to 10 points easy, right? Instead, you're begging for 2 points off the proper entry. So see this right here? I'm going to show you. Again, I'm just reading. I'm trying to read, instead of, like when you're learning it, you're just learning to look at where the arrows are, right? But what is this telling me? So see this pattern right here? Where we've got these blue bars right off the top, right? So I want to show you something. Usually, when you get a push off the top, you don't get those blue bars down. Sometimes you do, but it's actually pretty rare. What you do is you get the blue bars up into the high like this, right? So if I was looking at this and I'm reading it, right? So this is back from Friday on NQ. Okay, there's my blue bar. I gotta get underneath there. There's my blue speed bar. Okay, I've closed underneath right here, a backside test. So what do I need on this side of the equation is I need that arrow down, right? So see how I get that double arrow down right there? That's what tells me with the close, and the close of that bar was underneath my speed bar and my blue arrow up. That tells me I can get the push to the downside. Now, see there how I get no blue speed bars until all the way over here, right? See this? As we're pushing down, I get, look at the sequence. One to the downside here, one to the downside here, But now I'm going to start looking at, there's my red speed bar fractal, blue bar down. Okay, so see how I got that blue bar up right off the bottom and it closed above that blue bar down? That was one clue that we could have gone higher. Didn't go very far, right? Keep rotating down through this sector, right? So see, as we come into the low, I get my red speed bar. This is still my last blue arrow down, right over there. See that? Okay. So I'm still going to be working off of this guy right here. Whether I got stopped, scaled, and stop broke even, or I just flat out lost money here, I'm still working off this guy. I get my red bar here, right? So see over here, I get a blue bar up, and it failed, right? It's all right. I'm not trying to make it perfect, right? What you'll notice is once I get that, once I come over here, I get the red fractal speed bar down. Once I get over that, right, and I get over this, I get same area, right, effectively. Here's the purple and green arrow up right on this bar. Little backside test. Let's see what that ended up doing. Watch it fail, now that I'm going to look at it as an example. Well, actually, it already worked, right? Because if you took it initially, right, if you already took it initially here, you pushed, it didn't fail, because if you took it here at 11.24, you pushed all the way from 11.24 to 11.58. It was already a big trade, right? And I had a stopped out buyer here, and I had a stopped out buyer here. So this is my stopped out buyer right here. Backside tested my stopped out buyer with the red fractal, and it came back to test it one more time before it pushed. So I'm looking, instead of looking and going, oh, that's a blue arrow, I do this, what I'm looking at is I'm going, when I'm looking at that low, just like I was looking at the high a minute ago, right? I'm coming over here, erase all lines. I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, red speed bar fractal, right? Blue arrow down. Like when I'm looking at this, I'm already going to say, hey, there's my red speed bar fractal. There's my blue arrow down. I'm probably long right on this bar here, right? And then as I'm coming down again, I'm going to go, okay, well, I still have this. I haven't gotten another blue bar down, so I know that's an important level. And then here's my fractal right over here. I'm still going to go long on this bar right there because I'm like, that's showing me that the momentum is changing, right? That's telling me the momentum's changing. And what I'm trying to do is narrow down those stops to get them as tiny as possible, right? To get them as tiny as possible. What I really look for, let's say you had 100 trades like this. Okay, so I'm going to show you 100 trades. You took this bar right here and you put a stop on this bar. And you took this bar right here and you put a stop underneath there. And we're going to say that we don't have a 60, 70, 80% win rate. We're going to say we have a 50% win rate, 51%, right? But all my stops are 6 points, right? I'm going to assume I got slipped for a tick on the entry, and I'm going to get slipped underneath by about a point. Let's say 6.5, right? So my stops are 6.5, and my wins, let's say, are going to be 20 points, right? That's almost a 3-to-1 RR and a 51% win rate, which I know it's better than that, right? The part that people have difficulty with from a scalping perspective only is they get tired of the stops, right? And they get frustrated with the stops, and they're not looking at it in sets of 100. And when you're new, you're learning this and you're so on edge with, oh, that's the green bar, or, oh, that's the blue bar, that you're not looking at the read of what the market itself is doing. And that's what we're trying to improve upon when we're reading. So like when we come over here, right? So I noted when we were up here, blue speed bar, blue arrow up, I get underneath both of those and I should fall away. It did what I think it should do. Right? And now I know as I'm coming along, see these blue speed bars down, it's rare to get them. It shows a lot of pushing off the top. But I also know, like, if I get above this guy right here, we're probably pushing back to the high, right? So as we're pushing in, I'm flipping my hat the other way and going, how do I trade this the other direction? What am I looking for? And instead of asking where I think the market's going to go, I'm asking, what does the setup look like when the market turns? And then when I get it, right? So like if we're back over here, all the way back over here on Friday afternoon, right? If we look at this, like we can go, it's easy to go back and go, hey guys, news alert, right? You should get long here, right? That's what you should do, right? Instead, if I go through the process, because everyone knows it now, that's like a no shit alert, right? Who wants that? But as I'm trading, and this was hard, by the way, because I was here Friday afternoon, it was very hard, right? So as I'm looking, I'm going to go do. Okay, last blue arrow down. I'm going to put a line above that because I know that line is very important. How important? This important. Every time we get above it, it gave me a big chance to push higher, right? I know I've got a stopped out seller in there. A buyer, excuse me. I don't even have to mark it off. So now when I come down to the final pieces, I've got all these red bars down here. I'm looking for the first arrow up above those red bars. Okay, that's what that looks like. I don't have to be a genius to figure that out. And then on the backside test over here, right, when I look at the same area, I'm looking for some type of blue bar, speed bar down. They're still working off that one from Friday afternoon. And then I'm going to go, okay, well, I need an arrow up behind one of these red ones, right? I draw a line. There's my arrow up. And that told me I was turning. That's what it looks like when it turns. It's nothing special, and you can't tell that it's huge until it's already gone, right? That was all night long, just grind up, right? And now we're looking at the same thing now this morning. What are we looking for? So when I come back and look at this right now, I'm going to do the opposite way. So I know I can't get location because we're just not getting wide enough rotations, right? So the first thing I know is I'm looking for getting behind this bar, and this bar probably begets new highs, right? But what I'd like is we're pushing down here, right, is I'd like to get another blue bar, a red speed bar, and then an arrow up behind it, get that combination, and read it in a relaxed fashion as I'm reading it. That's how I was able to read that it should turn here, but I had no confidence to stay the trade because I don't see the counter rotations, and there's been too many times where I've been stopped. Does that make sense, Joshua? Does that make sense, guys, what I'm looking for? Thank you, Matt. Matt's 100% right. I don't want to go into that on the PNF, but he's 100% correct on that. Good eyes. Thank you, sir. And then I want to relax into it, right? And instead of going, oh, I go, oh, this is what it looks like when we turn, just like I was able to read that ES turn. And then I had an uncertainty, right? I'm going to go back to this because this trade worked, right? It was actually an okay trade. I'm not taking the trade because I see no evidence of counter rotations, and that has smoked me too many times. So I'm willingly deciding not to take that trade, right? So now I keep an emotional balance, and I don't go off on the deep end and go like I do sometimes, right? And go, oh, I should have known. I should have taken that, right? Well, no, because if you show me that 100 times, I'll show you about 60 of them where I just got my clock cleaned, where I had so much frustration waiting hours to get the rotation down that it just wasn't worth it for me. Okay, so let's see if we can't put it together for one or two trades, put some money on. And for those keeping count on NQ, I am up about $200 a contract now. And that includes getting up in the middle of the night to trade it. Not a lot. NQ up 110, ES up 13. The hourly stop is there below 33.73. Closest hourly stop on ES. 33.72 3/4. Anyways, guys, on YouTube, that's all I've got. If you'd like to join us in the room, send me an email to tradenperform, tradenperform @gmail.com if you'd like to have a 5-day pass or join the room and trade well. Get an edge, work the edge. Once you've got an edge, you've got the benefit of being in the casino, right? All you have to do is work that edge over and over again, which is all casinos do. So have a great day. I'm going to cut off the YouTube, and we'll be back tomorrow morning. See you guys. And I will work on the okay, and for guys on YouTube, I will work on the streaming quality. I don't know why it's on 480. I will work on that. That's actually horrible. So I will look into that. I apologize. I'll be on that today.